Hey, welcome back to Score Off Business, and we're still with Jennell and talking about mindfulness and basically being healthy between the ears.
Right.
And so you said before the break that 12 years ago you had a kind of a wake-up call. What happened there?
I did, and I don't think this is unusual, unfortunately, and part of what is really propelled me to want to help people learn these very simple practices is my own experience, and I think that's why it happened. So 12 years ago, January 15th, 2007, I was rushed to an emergency room outside of Washington, D.C. with the preliminary diagnosis of having had a stroke. And I was running a company. We were doing work in we had 35 employees at that time doing work in 17 countries. It was a lot going on. It was all positive stuff. So I want the entrepreneurs out there to hear this. You're doing a lot of great things and it's very exciting.
Right.
However, we all have a tipping point. And I had reached that. My diagnosis was that I had not had a stroke, that my episode, they called it, was nothing but stress. I was on complete overload. We keep adding to our plate. We don't take anything off.
Right.
And I think particularly when things are going well, that's a real kind of dangerous place for an entrepreneur to be. So I learned after that, I said, okay, I have to do something to get rid of stress. Stress does not dissipate. Stress accumulates. And I learned that the hard way. So we don't see stress. It's invisible. I think if we could see it, I think more of us would say, hey, I don't want that, get rid of it. But we can't see it. So we just accept it, and it accumulates and adds up, clouds our thinking, and really diffuses our awareness.
You know, I had a colleague one time who had the same thing, rushed to the emergency room, and it was stress. And then I have been told in my life, by healthcare professionals, hey, you can't keep going the way you're going. You are killing yourself. And you know, so there was no like specific episode, but it was just kind of speaking to what you're saying, and you just get used to it.
You really do. It becomes your new normal, and that's exactly what happened to me. So I learned how to meditate and immediately started that practice, and it changed my life. And then I became an instructor. I said, well, I got to take this to my clients. So that is how I got into this work. And with the research and the timing, everything, you know, I wanted to make sure I got really trained. I knew how to meditate, but I wanted to be trained how to teach other leaders. And I really do focus on leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners. So I have a lot of concern, or I think a topic that businesses should have a lot of concern about is multitasking. It's a myth.
Can you talk about that?
Sure. Our brain's really not designed to be doing several things at one time. So it's much more efficient and effective for us to focus on one task at a time and then move to the next thing. Now, I know that sounds like a slower way of accomplishing things. However, it is, you actually get more done that way. And so that's a mindset shift. People have to really understand this. So when you do something like meditation every day, it trains your brain to focus on one thing. And that's a great mental conditioning thing to do every day. Morning is ideal before you start your day. Then when you get to the office, that just transfers over. You know, you take on one project, one thing that you're focusing on. I'm not saying you bring it to completion, but you focus on one thing at a time. The use of iPhones, which is such a great technical tool, I think has created such an environment of people wanting to not miss out on things, so they're constantly tethered to their phone, and then they're trying to have a conversation at the same time, and you know it's not happening. We're doing either one well. So when you ask me back about why leaders should do this, you know, if an employee is trying to have a conversation with a leader and they're checking their messages while we're having a conversation, that really demotivates a person, and it really devalues them, right? They go, you don't care about what I'm thinking, right? So it's a real myth when people think they're getting more done. And a lot of kids are brought up, the millennials are, you know, raised with these devices. And it's like anything that's a good thing, if it's overused, can become a not so good thing.
So in the workplace, what does multitasking look like? Somebody sitting at their desk. What's
well, they might be listening to music or checking their email or Instagram while they're trying to manage a project. Something's going to get missed. It's just impossible. You're not going to have the level of focus required to do that kind of work successfully. And you might get away with it for a while, but eventually it's going to show up somewhere because it's too much. So it's better to, as I said, to focus on one thing, then move to the next thing intentionally. Take a break. We don't take enough breaks. in our work culture. Although I do know from talking to some folks at some of the big 4 accounting firms, they're encouraging it more now because we have more research. There's a company called the Energy Project based out of New York, and their focus is going into companies to measure productivity and things like that. And they have research where if people take breaks every 50 minutes, every hour, they're more productive.
Right.
But we, you know, when I started out in the workplace, we were not encouraged to think that way. Don't get up from your desk. And so we learn, we evolve, and every generation gets a little smarter, right, at these things. But the phones, again, I think have created, but we're seeing sort of a backlash to this with people now taking retreats where they're unplugging, they're just getting away from the phone because they're designed for us to want to use them. The fear of missing out, right? And they're so cool and they can do everything, you know, and if you have a watch, even better, right? It's like you have everything in your life right here. So I think we're seeing people getting a little exhausted with the technology and getting back, and I think that's a trend that is going to continue. So there's a balance, right? We use these tools, you know, efficiently and yet allow some downtime. We can't, as I said, the car cannot run all day long and all night.
So, yeah, that makes a lot of... Okay, so what are some misconceptions about mindfulness and meditation?
Question. Yeah, I get questions every day about meditation and mindfulness. And so I think the biggest one that I hear is that somehow a daily meditation practice is going to conflict with my faith. And here's what I say to them. There are some meditation practices that have roots in Eastern philosophies and religions. However, modern day meditation techniques have nothing to do with that. It is simply a breathing exercise that calms the nervous system. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system and takes you to a place of rest and ultimately rejuvenation. So I say to people, if you are a person of faith, it will only make you more aware of your spiritual feelings and your practice. And if you are an atheist, then it's not going to, you know, certainly turn you into a person who no longer is an atheist. People of all faiths meditate, and so it has really nothing to do with religion. It just makes you more self-aware of whatever you believe.
I'm guessing, well, why don't we take a break and we'll come back and finish on this.
Great.
Okay, we'll be right back.